I'm Kathy Gallery, president of the Tufts Senior Connection, a shared interest group of the Tufts University Alumni Council, which plans events for alums 55 and over. This is our second Zoom event, and we must be on a roll as more than 650 people have registered for this timely topic of healthy aging. Wow. This program would not be possible without the assistance of Amy McDonald and Karen McCauley of the Office of Alumni Relations and Deb Dutcher of the Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts. Thanks also to Sam Ruth for publicizing our event to the OSHA membership. I am so pleased to introduce the moderator of this program, Dr. Sarah Booth, Director of the Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging and Senior Scientist and Director of the Vitamin K Laboratory at HNRCA. Among her many research accomplishments, Dr. Booth discovered a previously undescribed form of vitamin K in the human diet created by the hydrogenation, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, of dietary fats. She's also studied novel roles for vitamin K in calcification disorders and kidney disease, and currently studies vitamin K's role in cognition. Dr. Booth is an international leader in vitamin K and nutrition research, for which she has received multiple awards. She is a professor in the Biochemical and Molecular Nutrition program at the Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy at Tufts. Dr. Booth will introduce our panel, and I know we are all looking forward to their conversation. And please, if you have questions, please use the Q&A button for questions, and those will be answered if time permits. So Dr. Booth, take it away, please. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me here. And I'm really excited today, first of all, to brag about the Jean Mayer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University, which we affectionately refer to as the HNRCA. Deb, next slide, please. So why do we have a center on nutrition and healthy aging? Well, as this audience knows, America is getting older, and a big milestone was passed last year. Did you know in the United States, there are now more people over the age of 65 than there are children under the age of 5 years? Furthermore, in 9 years, it is anticipated that 1 in 5 Americans will be over the age of 65. Next slide, please. Jean Mayer, who many of you knew, our former Tufts University president, had a vision more than 40 years ago. He recognized that Americans were getting older, and moreover, the globe was getting older, and we needed to harness the preventative power of nutrition and physical activity to expand health span. This is going to be a theme today, and our panelists are going to contribute to our knowledge here about how we need to promote health span. That is more important than lifespan when we talk about quality of life. Jean Mayer worked with a government relations team in Washington to secure the money from Congress to create a center of research on the role of nutrition and physical activity on healthy aging. It was indeed the first academic earmark in the history of the US Congress. And it is now a cooperative agreement with the Department of Agriculture. Next slide, please. So here we are today. This is our building. We're on the corner of Washington Street. We are one of the largest research centers in the world studying nutrition and physical activity and healthy and active aging. We are also the largest independent research center within the Tufts University family. Next slide, please. We collaborate with everybody. We collaborate with the New School of Museum of Fine Arts. We co-teach a course. We work with the Friedman School, the Dental School, Arts and Sciences, and now we formed a new connection today. We formed our connection with you, the Tufts Senior Connection Alumni Group. So welcome to our family. Next slide, please. So let's talk about aging. As we're going to learn from our panel today, aging is very multifactorial. We talk about lifespan, but we here today are going to talk about health span. How can we achieve the longest period of time when we are healthy, we have quality of life, and we are not in disability? So there's many, many factors. There's genetics, there's our lifestyle, and there's our environment. And all of this contributes to our rate of aging. It also contributes to our rate of getting disease and how disease influence our health span. Next slide, please. So our strategy at the Human Nutrition Research Center is to look at new strategies involving food and physical activity to extend health span. So what am I talking about? So let's face it, when we're young, we grow, we develop our muscle, we develop knowledge, and it all seems that we're improving, and then we hit this point. Some people it's in their 20s, some people it's in their 40s, when it all starts to decline and function declines until we get to a point as we get older that we become disabled and we lose our quality of life. And this is a normal health span. We have rise in function, and then we have decline. Next. Now, what we can do is delay the decline such that if we are programmed to live until we are 100, for example, how can we delay the function, so the decline in function, so that we may have limitations, but we're not disabled? And we can do that with nutrition, and we can do that with physical activity. Next. The other strategy is to start younger and develop more reserve. So you still have the same decline of function as we get older, but we have so much reserve that by the time we're programmed to come to the end of our lifespan, we have very few limitations. And that is the overarching goal when we talk about nutrition and physical activity with healthy aging, is to change the trajectory of normal aging. So we either delay the decline in function, or we build so much reserve that we can have the same decline, but we have so much reserve that we do not go into disability. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the HNRCA. We have many focus areas, all focusing on how do we extend health span and decrease disability. So one of the questions that actually was sent in advance was around the topic of cognition. It's a topic that is important to every American, particularly as we age. And there is unfortunately no single treatment for Alzheimer's. There is no single treatment for prevention of Parkinson's disease, but there is some very innovative work happening right now in the area of prevention. I think that it's misleading for people to feel that nutrition or physical activity can reverse cognitive decline, but it can slow the rate and it can slow the onset. I'm very fortunate to be working with a team at Rush Medical Center, where we are actually looking at nutrients in the brain of individuals who consented to participate in research, and they consented to autopsies upon death. And what they're finding is there are many nutrients that contribute to the concept of resilience. So it creates some kind of buffer to slow the onset. Right now, fruits and vegetables and also physical activity seem to be ways that we can delay some of that cognitive decline. We also do cancer, cardiovascular health. We look at age-related macular degeneration. We look at dietary patterns. Yes, we look at obesity and how do we keep that excess weight off. We also are leaders in bone and muscle. And these are all areas that the HNRCA is seen as a leader worldwide for nutritional interventions. A couple of facts here. The study, the seminal study that demonstrated we all need vitamin D with calcium to prevent bone loss was done at the HNRCA. We have a vision lab that is the only group that is looking at nutrition to delay onset of age-related macular degeneration. Next slide, please. And much of our research is found in the dietary guidelines for Americans, which is the seminal information, and it is the single resource for Americans for what they should eat for health. And indeed, many of the versions of the dietary guidelines for Americans, which are issued every 5 years, have had representatives from Tufts University. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have dietary guidelines, we're doing research, and this is what you see in the media. Butter's back, eat fat, lose weight. Nope, eat vitamin C, it's gonna beat your cancer. Eat this and live 20 years longer. You see this and you think, next slide, please. You think, are these people really know what they're doing? And that is one of the big challenges. So I want to address this very briefly about one of the challenges of nutrition. The problem is everybody eats. Therefore, everyone believes that they are an expert in nutrition. Next slide, please. And that is why we have the scientific process. Because in an ideal world, there is an observation that a researcher makes. Let's take the example of cognition and diet. They make a discovery. They then convey it to the research community who evaluate it. Is it credible? Was it done right? They then approve it, and then that researcher sends back that discovery to the wide world. Next slide. And when that model of credibility was created, I want you to look at this slide. We had textbooks. So what happened was you had a researcher and they discovered something. They published it, they submitted it, wrote it up, they did the research, they put it in a manuscript. They sent it to a journal, which then reviewed the manuscript. They had reviewers, they had editors, they published it. The research community, they chewed over it, they discussed it. The graduate students and the undergraduate students, they picked it apart. And then once they realized, okay, this was a good study, then it got pushed out through the textbook in the real world. We don't use textbooks anymore. It's 2021. What happens is the researcher releases the information of their research into something called preprints now. So what they do is they put it on the internet. And so not only are the editors and reviewers looking at it, and then the research community and the other scientists, so are you. So is the media. So what you're seeing when you get all these conflicting messages is the credibility process of science, which is healthy, which is good, but you're seeing it played out in real time in social media. It's a new way of doing science. It actually accelerates science, but it does mean that there is going to be some bad science that is really promoted that then has to be retracted. So let me give you a concrete example. One of the questions that was sent to us in advance was, my friend was told that vitamin K2 is being shown to prevent osteoporosis based on Japanese studies. Yeah, this is my area of research. What has happened is there was a whole slew of studies that were published that said a form of vitamin K, when given to women, would treat osteoporosis, and other studies said they would prevent osteoporosis. We at the HNRCA conducted the only rigorous clinical trial of vitamin K and osteoporosis in both men and women, and we unfortunately did not see any benefit of vitamin K above that of calcium and vitamin D. So now you've got two very conflicting observations. How do we reconcile with this? Well, with the credibility process of science, people started to question why there were these two observations. It has since been discovered that the studies of vitamin K2 that were produced by many of these Japanese scientists, there were two scientists who produced all the work. They have now gone back and realized that the data were fabricated. Those data have been retracted. There has now been a reevaluation, and the current consensus is one does not take a vitamin K supplement to prevent osteoporosis. Next slide, please. The other reason why dietary guidance is so confusing and everybody has a different opinion is because we are all unique. We are not the same. We all respond to different foods differently. I love my dairy. My husband doesn't respond very well to dairy. That is a very common difference among people. Next slide, please. And this is a big area of nutrition right now because each of us respond differently. We may be taking drugs that interact with our food. We all know about the grapefruit caution. You can't drink grapefruit juice and take a number of drugs. Our genes, you know, what our parents and our grandparents passed on to us, these are very, very important in dictating how we respond to food, how much activity we do, and also whether or not we have chronic diseases. Next slide. And indeed, the National Institutes of Health, which is the largest funder of biomedical research, for the very first time in their history, have created a strategic plan for nutrition research. They have acknowledged that the role of nutrition in entire lifespan and health is so critical. And what is their unifying vision? Something called precision nutrition, that each of us vary. So we have to look at the how individuals respond to food. Next slide, please. And this precision nutrition is going to be so critical for future research. And I am pleased to announce that the NIH held a workshop on precision nutrition this week. And the chair of that workshop, which was disseminated worldwide, was one of our scientists, Dr. Jose Ordovas, who has two children who are alum of Tufts Undergrad. And we anticipate the HNRCA will be leaders in the role of nutrition in reducing the burden of disease and promoting health span. Next slide, please. So with that, I hope I've given you a sampling of what the HNRCA does. We have a lot of opportunities for you because you are now part of our connections. Here is our website. If you want to volunteer for a study post-pandemic, we want you. If you want to follow us on social media, there's our Twitter feed. And if you want to get on our newsletter where we give updates but responsible reporting, not false claims, please reach out to us and join our newsletter. And with that, what I would like to do is to get out of our slides and now move on to our panelists who I think are really going to give us insight into this concept of healthy aging and the factors that contribute to healthy aging. So I'm going to start introducing our panel with a man who is one of the most respected members of Tufts faculty and happens to hold the title of Tufts' longest serving provost, which was 21 years, and that is Sol Gittleman. Sol earned his undergraduate degree from the University of Michigan in 1960 and then went on to get his Master's of Education from Tufts in 1969. Saul actually started in faculty at Tufts on 1964 in the German department, and then moved to the title of chairman of the German and Russian department in 66, where he was tenured. Saul tells us that his only obligation was to be interesting and to teach students something they needed to know about. He led a plethora of courses ranging from Yiddish culture and literature to baseball history. According to Saul, he would have preferred to have been a shortstop for the New York Yankees, but his scouting report stated, "Nice kid, can't hit, can't field, can't throw, lucky for us." At Tufts, Saul became a professor, and then he became a provost, and then he became a university professor before retiring in 2017. Although when we say retiring, I'm not really sure what it means, because he's still actively involved with the Cummings Foundation. He writes for the Tufts magazine, and he still lectures. Now, interestingly, Saul shared with us that both his parents died in their mid-70s, and they were both pack-a-day smokers. Remember that slide on environment and genetics? But here we have Saul, a great example of a successful, healthy octogenarian. Saul is now 86 and has been married for 64 years to our next speaker, Robyn. Robyn Gittleman.
It's my spell right and the wrong.
Robyn attended the New York City public school system and did her undergraduate studies at the University of Michigan. In 1969, Robyn earned her Master's of Education at Tufts. During the summer between high school and college, she met Saul, and the following year they were married. Robyn received a Fulbright scholarship that took her and Saul to Germany for many years, which Robyn calls the beginning of her education.
She got it all mucked up.
They learned they wanted an interested and varied life, and lucky for them and us, that is what they have had. When the couple returned from Germany in 1972, Tufts Experimental College had an opening for an academic coordinator. And with Robyn's unique background in alternative education, it was a perfect fit. Robyn eventually became the director of the Experimental College and served as the associate dean for undergraduate education.
She's reading something, so who got it?
Robyn became an inspirational figure in the Tufts community and was influential in creating the Film and Media Studies program, the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and the Exploration and Perspectives First-Year Advising program at Tufts. After a 44-year tenure at Tufts, Robyn retired in 2015. Robyn, who is now 83, and Saul moved to Brookhaven, a continuing care retirement community in Lexington, where they have great neighbors, great educational programs, including Tufts OSHA classes, and important to today's topic, delicious food. The Gittlemans have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Our third speaker, Ken Fettig, is a Tufts alum from 1952, where he received an undergraduate degree in civil engineering. He obtained 2 master's degrees, one from MIT and one from Harvard, and served in the US Army. Ken was a division manager in industry, a consultant for 4 years, started his own company in promotional products, which eventually was purchased. So he's clearly an overachiever, because he flunked at retirement. He tried it in 1991, but then went back to consulting part-time. Ken took a lifelong learning course at Boston College in 1998 and thought Tufts really should have a similar program. He worked with the Alumni Council, Continuing Education Committee, and with others put together Osher's Lifelong Learning Institute at Tufts for the fall of 2000. Thanks, Ken. It's a really true accomplishment. He continues to be involved with programming at the Osher Institute. Ken, who is now 91, has been active all his life. He still plays golf, plays tennis, and he runs a mile 3 times a week in Walpole, where he lives with his wife. So I want to thank the panelists for joining us, and I hope you're ready to start responding to questions. Is that okay, guys? Okay, So let's unmute and let's have fun. So Saul,
Okay.
Robyn, and Ken, you live in different environments. Saul and Robyn, you decide to move to a retirement community. Ken, you and your wife live in your own home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys, did you think this was a good decision? Do you have other advice for others who are facing this decision? Do I move into a retirement community? Do I live in my own home? So I'm going to start with Saul and Robyn. Thoughts about this?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, for me, it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. It's like being on a cruise ship or on a campus, college campus. Everything that we could possibly want is taken care of, and yet we have great flexibility and independence. And we have a great group of friends, new friends when we moved in. Some people from the Tufts faculty lived here previously or with us now, but in general, it's just been a lovely thing. For somebody that was in charge of the cooking, for everyday cooking, it's more than marvelous because somebody else does it for me. And I don't have to worry about, are we having string beans or spinach? We have it all. But it really works, and we do lots of activities, and I'll let Saul try his piece.
We came for two different reasons. Robyn was physically perfectly fine. I was starting to fall apart from the navel down. I had had 3 hip operations. I was a ball player all my life. So
I'm the younger wife,
I
remember
know.
that.
The joints were going.
And a good-looking one too, Robyn.
And my hips were going. And so at one point, I then finally fell down the stairs after my 3rd hip surgery. And the house was 2 stories, 10 rooms. We were alone and starting to rattle around. And we had started looking at places like Brookhaven 10 or 15 years earlier without even knowing. I was giving lectures there. We had friends there, Al Ullman, a lot of Tufts faculty, Catherine McCarthy, George Markopoulos wound up there. And we didn't know we were looking, but we were seeing and then absorbing information. And then once it became clear that we were going to have to get out of the house, we then started deciding on what our criteria were. Well, I had 2. I needed a swimming pool because swimming now is the best activity for me. And I swim here every day. And the other one, I didn't want a dress code. And some of the places had dress codes. You had to have a jacket on for lunch or dinner. I didn't want that. So we started looking around, and finally we found a place. The timing worked perfectly for us. We had a house that we had paid $25,000 for. We sold it for nearly $1 million. We were real estate rich. We could afford to come here, and the timing just worked out perfectly. So much was serendipity. It was an accident, but it all worked out. We knew we had to get out, and we got out just at the right time, and it's been a wonderful 5 years so far. Average age here is 87. There are 40% of the people are over 90. But there's a lot of, I was telling Robyn while I was listening to you, it's astonishing to me. Jean Mayer died when he was 72.
Yes.
And he was not, the last meal he and I ate together was liver and bacon. He was not a good health guy. He was a Frenchman. He loved the inside of the cow. He ate entrails. He ate offal. He loved pancreas and liver. It was amazing that he didn't pay any attention to his own nutritional needs.
Wow, thank you, Saul and Robyn. So I take it you did not move to Downton Abbey, which because you don't have to dress up, which I commend you for.
No
and
time.
I think you've really, and I think you're raising some really good points here that exercise is critical for your health span and quality of life, and also removing some of the stressors of day-to-day living. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Ken. Ken, you decided to stay in your own home with your wife. Talk to me about the pros and the cons and what you think about it.
Well, it wasn't a difficult decision for me because I married a young lady who is one of 5 sisters, and they all were active in their 80s, and they're professional people and they all lived independently. And their mother and father died at home at the age, I guess in the 90s. And the sisters took care of them. So there's a tradition of living independently. However, there are a few other factors, and especially in this coronavirus age, many people in the assisted living or community living places are locked in. And I like to play golf and tennis, and I can do it fortunately at my age, and so I'm continuing to do that and running, and my wife does as well. So we're getting along pretty well, but I would recommend that you look into places that you might want to go to eventually. And I have taught at Brookhaven as well as Saul, and so I know a lot about that place and the advantages. And I also have some friends at Fox Hill and other retirement
places.
communities.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm happy right now in my current facility. So I don't see us changing much in the next year or two.
Okay, so that's an interesting, I think that you're going to lead me into my next question, Ken, because I admire all three of you, that you're thinking future, you're thinking about all the activities that you're doing, not only now, but in the future. And Ken, you're mentioning about, thinking about the future, perhaps for changing residents, but you also do some really exciting activities with the Osher program at Tufts. And I know that you're still very involved in developing and presenting courses. Can you give some hints to our audience? And I would like you to share them with me as well. How are you keeping your brain skills alive and well? I mean, here you are, and all three of you are here on Zoom, and gosh, I commend you. So how do you keep your mind active and current and learn new things?
You want the woman to start first?
We'll start with Ken, and then we'll go to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I read extensively, and I just finished a book on Churchill called The Splendid and the Vile. And I'm ready to teach a course in that. It was just such a enlightening story about World War II. So I do some reading, and I noticed someplace they said, on TV, the medical commentator on CNN just wrote a book.
Yes, I know who you're meaning, and I've got a lot. Does anybody want to jump in? Who is the medical expert for CNN? Anybody on our panel can remember his name?
Sanjay Gupta.
Sanjay Gupta. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now he mentioned doing crosswords and puzzles, and I do both every day. So maybe that helps.
That's great. So so puzzles, reading. Saul and Robyn, how do you keep engaging in keeping your mind alert, learning new things?
I think that for me, and I think Saul will speak for himself, I read the newspapers. I do listen to television. There are lots of talks that are given here at Brookhaven now. They're virtual, but normally they would be in an auditorium. There are a lot of very interesting people. And when I go to my Tai Chi class, there are 9 women and men that are always, did you see this? And what do you think about that? And I think that when I say it's like a college campus, it truly is an enlightened place that everybody has had some interesting thoughts about. Of course, nowadays, you cannot help but have interesting thoughts. So it is, and I read books, but I keep more up to date to what's happening in the politics in the world around us. Climate change is a very big thing here. Everybody's talking about what we can do and how we can help. And so it's not a dull place. And when you have a great number of people, you can do that. And of course, having a computer is just a very large educational piece there.
Yeah.
Let me pick up on Robyn's last point. The only thing that's going to change in our lives is technology. Human nature is not going to change. You must stay connected with technology. Whatever you're doing as you grow older, what I've noticed here that people will get isolated when they give up their computer, they give up their laptop, they give up everything, and they're no longer connected. You have to stay connected to technology to stay connected to the human condition. That's simply the way life is going to be for the rest of it. On a personal note, I have an office still at Tufts. I go into the library once a week. I pick up my books. I wanted to stay connected with the things that I was doing. I don't miss the teaching at all. I don't miss the grading. I don't miss the anxiety, any of that. But I give an occasional lecture. I still measure myself, whether I'm losing anything from the neck up. I'm constantly aware of the capacity I have still to communicate, keep in touch with a lot of old students and a couple of new ones now who need me on their dissertation committees or something like that. So you've got to stay intellectually engaged. Don't give it up or else you'll fail. You've just got to keep that going.
Great. And I know when we were in the waiting room before this session started, a number of you were talking about the great Tisch College talks that took place yesterday. And I know that many of you are engaged in a lot of the Tufts activities, which I'm going to argue that that's been one of the advantages of the pandemic, that a lot of information is more accessible. Right. But to your point, Saul, if people can stay connected, engaged with the technology. Can I just come back to another point that you've all made, and that's about physical activity. So Robyn, you were talking about Tai Chi. Talk to me a little bit more about the benefits of Tai Chi. When did you start getting involved in Tai Chi? Struggles, benefits?
Well, I find myself, people say, what do you do in retirement? And having been a working woman for many years, I had a routine that says you get to the office at 9 o'clock and you work until you leave whenever. And I find that I need to have a routine here. Otherwise, I might stay in bed and suck my thumb for a long time. So I get up at a regular time and I do some sort of class. Very often it's a Tai Chi class, but it's also an exercise class. And then I take a weight-bearing class as well, one afternoon a week. But every single day, I routinely go for a walk that's at least a mile. And that's inside if it's a nasty, nasty day, or outside, there's lots of walking paths around here. And so I feel that as far as health-wise, as far as my head, it's all moving ahead. Who knows what I'll be in 5 years, but around here, one thinks they're going to be here until 100, and there are many people that long. Also, one of the nice things here is that everything is, your health is basically from when you enter until when you're gone. And we're going to have our shots on the 30th. And everybody knows that's the date that somebody will come to our door and give us the vaccine shot. And 3 weeks later, the second shot is set. So those things will keep us healthy, but the activity is what really keeps me going.
So Robyn, can I just tell you a few little interesting facts? The knowledge that as we age, our muscles start to deteriorate, and some people even more so, is a condition called sarcopenia, which means muscle wasting. And that term was coined at the HNRCA by our former director, Irv Rosenberg. Exactly. And it was at the HNRCA where the first studies were done that showed that weightlifting actually reverses that muscle wasting. So
I've been looking at my muscle mass for a long time.
Yes.
And you watch it, Ken, as a tennis player, he'll watch his forearms. They get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you do everything you can to keep your muscle mass going.
I just wanted to say that with the Tai Chi, you also have a great deal of balance work. And so I think that that's one of the things that we all worry about, is losing our balance, falling, breaking a bone or whatever. So with the weightlifting and the balance work that goes on with definitely with Tai Chi, it helps us feel better psychologically as well as physically.
Great. So we only have 3 minutes left before we open for questions. So if you don't mind, I'm going to switch over to Ken.
Good.
And I'm just going to say, Ken, what are your pearls of wisdom for our audience about healthy aging?
Well, Sol and I were very interested in baseball for a number of years, and there was a pitcher in the old Negro Leagues who probably could have, definitely could have played Major League Baseball by the name of Satchel Paige. And he was also a philosopher of sorts, and he had a saying that, "Don't look back, they might be gaining." And I've always lived by that principle. Whatever you have done in the past, that's over. Now it's the time to find some new things and move on. So I think that's about it.
Well, sage advice, sage advice. Sol and Robyn, any pearls of wisdom
before we open up to the panelists? One more Macular quotation. He said, the idea is to live as long as possible and die as young as possible. And he was right. You've got to try to keep your cognition, your physical business as long as you possibly can, and keep yourself going.
Okay, great. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much for answering my questions. And now we're going to open it up to the questions of the audience. I'm engaging my colleague from the HNRCA, Deb Dutcher, who is going to read out the questions. And Ken, Sol, Robyn, the four of us we're gonna answer together as a team. Okay, Deb.
Thanks, you guys. That was fantastic. To the audience, I'm going to go ahead and work through the questions that people have been sending since we started. And we're going to address the questions that our panelists have expertise in. So if for some reason your question doesn't get addressed, it could be that we don't have the wherewithal with this group, although it's a pretty group. But for the sake of time, we might move on. And also, if and when we do run out of time this evening, we're going to be sharing our panelists' emails in the chat. I think that Amy already shared it, actually. And so we'll try to address those questions that we don't get to tonight. And if you feel that you need to reach out to any of the panelists, go for it. All right, so let's go. Our first question, I think, will be a little bit more geared towards Dr. Booth. Do you recommend intermittent fasting for people over 65? Sorry.
Great question. I don't have the answer for you now because the research is in its infancy. There is a lot of interest. There is a lot of conflicting information out there, and the studies really have to be rigorously conducted. And actually, that raises a really good point that, can I just do a diversion here, Deb? Rigorous research is really critical to be able to give guidance. And until that research is done, which requires patience, I just ask that I urge people to talk to their healthcare provider before they make any changes in diet. But Ken, you are a participant in a research study. Do you want to just describe a little bit? I know it's not about intermittent fasting, but you just want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I volunteered for actually 2 studies in the last 10 years. One was on knee research, which was done by the Brown University Medical School, and it was a national study, and I went in twice a year, walked down a hallway as fast as I could, and they took knee x-rays and so forth, and that's it. That study is still going on. They let me know every once in a while what's happening. And the other one that I just finished, it was use of it's called the COCOA research panel, and it's done in Boston here. And I was taking some pills, and I'm not sure whether I was part of the active or the passive.
Placebo group or the active, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll know about that soon, but it hasn't hurt me, I know that.
And Ken, in participating in this, you are contributing to this collective scientific process. So thank you. Thank you for Deb allowing us that diversion.
I think I'll move on to the next question. Oh, sorry. Is that okay?
I just want to add that I don't want to volunteer for that fasting research.
Okay.
Another viewer has a question about, is curious about hearing from the panel on how their perceptions and responses to stress have changed throughout their life course and how people are currently coping with stress.
You know, I'm a chronic worrier. I've spent my life worrying. It's simply one of the things that I am. So stress has always been part of it. Stress can be bad and stress can be good. Sometimes stress just gives you an additional shot of adrenaline. And I don't think that I've ever started a semester in September or in January without feeling the terror of the fear of failure. So fear of failure is a big part of any instructor, any teacher's life. So,
yeah, for me, I think that the lack of stress is that I don't have some of the responsibilities that I did have when I was raising children, and when I was cleaning a house, and when I was worrying about food, as well as what was happening then. So right now, it's stress is just reduced, and then of course doing the exercise each day and seeing lots of people and sort of talking it out. So it's a much less stressful time in my life, for sure.
Great, thank you.
I haven't had a very stressful life, I must admit, but things happen to all of us, you know. We have a couple of children and 3 grandchildren, and they're worrying about, or we're worrying about things that they are happening or happening to them. So I'm not a good one to comment on that.
Great. Deb, next question.
Yeah. Next is about the microbiome. And this will be for you, Sarah. What role does the microbiome play in healthy aging?
Oh, good question. I'm going to have the same answer, I'm afraid, to most of this. You know, what's very interesting, there's a lot of interest right now in the microbiome. The focus primarily is in the gut, the bacteria that reside in our gut. but the microbiome extends to much more than just our gut. It can be on our skin and our mouth, etc. There's been quite a bit of work demonstrating that there's an interplay between the bacteria in the gut and what the food we eat. However, there has been very little research done in the space of aging. And as many of you know, a number of people have shifts in the pH in their gastrointestinal tract, and that can change, but I have to say it is a very understudied area. But the HNRCA, we have one in particular, mid-level scientist, Dr. Jimmy Crott, who is really doing some innovative work. So stay tuned. We're going to do this in 5 more years, guys, and then I can tell you the answer.
Our next question we have, I think probably for everybody, is if people can share some general advice on those people approaching around the age of 60 who are still pretty active, not overweight, but might have their cholesterol levels rising slowly. Maybe if any of the panelists have any advice, if you've experienced that at all.
It seemed like so far long ago. That's 27 years ago for me. 60 is a kid in a way. Just keep it all together, but keep exercising above all and watch your weight.
I would say that both Sol and myself, but I'll speak for myself, just never really stressed about that. We went about life as it came to us. And we always stayed active, and had great friends and dealt with both our family and our friends on a weekly and daily basis. So for those people that keep worrying about, am I doing the right thing and have I done this? We went to the doctor once a year when we needed to. And if there was some medication that we needed to take, we took it. But we were not people that really worried about what the next year is going to bring. We just went ahead.
We were also very lucky. I mean, a lot of this is serendipity. We missed all the big ones, all the big diseases. Up until now, we didn't have them. I just got to the gym every day. Robyn walked around the track every day, and I ate everything that she put in front of me. We have a low threshold, and having a low threshold works to keep you going.
Ken, do you have any?
I was very fortunate as well. I spent 1 day in the hospital during after I was born, so I've been very fortunate in that area.
And even as a ball player, Ken, nothing broke?
Oh yeah, but I didn't spend the day in the hospital. I just got a cast.
Speaking of, another question that we've got here, Ken, is someone's asking if they can platoon with you when the annual alumni varsity baseball games resume. Get ready for that.
Absolutely. We didn't get to play it this year, unfortunately, but I have been going over faithfully every year. So yeah, I'm ready.
Quick question for Sol and Robyn. How long have you been at Brookhaven, and have you found any Yankees fans there?
We've been here it'll be 5 years complete in June. And the people are from everywhere, mostly a lot of academics. It's like a faculty meeting here. You can have a vote of no confidence in a heartbeat. Anarchists everywhere. It's crazy. But there are ball players, ball fans, Yankee fans,
Lots of Yankees fans.
Mostly Red Sox fans. But you can have a fight about anything. That keeps the blood and the adrenaline flowing also.
Sarah, I think this is more towards you. About age-related macular degeneration.
Mm-hmm.
This viewer says there currently is no treatment for the dry variety except for a vitamin combination. Is there any progress in this area?
Yes, there is. Actually, some of the the lab we have at the HNRCA has made a very important discovery that the amount of the the balance of the carbohydrates you eat can influence the progression of age-related macular degeneration. Now, I want to put the caveat here. That is based on work in mice, and it seems to be an interplay between the bacteria in the gut and the eye. So they're calling it the gut-eye axis. It has not been tested. This hypothesis has only been observed in humans in observational studies. So it's not, we don't know cause and effect. There are plans for clinical trials in the future, but it's very, very exciting work.
Great, thanks. Another question for the whole group. What do you wish that you had known about healthy aging when you were in your 70s that would help those of us that are at the beginning of this journey?
No, it was really what something you're built with. I know Ken is that way. I had to get to the gym. If I didn't get to the gym every day for something or other, I felt diminished. I had a bad day. So the idea of being a compulsive workout, a jock, whatever it is, I found I became a professor so I could be near a library and a gym. And it never let me down. Working out, keeping yourself physically in shape and enjoying it, enjoying playing ball or something.
Also, for me, I come from a family of lots of strong women, and they all lived to a long age. If you didn't live until you're into your 80s, then you died young. And knowing that the DNA was there for me, just let me go ahead and live my life. And so it was nice to know that my mother died in her 90s. She had a sister that lived until she was 100, and that in fact they had terrible nutrition when they were kids. They were very poor and they didn't do anything, but being basically New York City people, they walked a lot without realizing that they were walking a lot. But it was just a way of saying, I'll get there too. And so I relaxed about how long I would live. But I expect to live a long time, and being in Brookhaven only helps me know that too.
And my parents were two-pack-a-day cigarette smokers. I think somebody said that earlier. Yeah. So I stopped smoking, and you can't pick up any bad habits. So just keep away from the bad stuff and enjoy yourself.
I was very fortunate. About 40 years ago, we were living in Medfield, and a group started a group exercise program. And we eventually got up to about 60 people. And right now, there are 5 of us left, and I'm the 4th youngest. And we have one guy that's over 100, and he walks about 20 minutes every morning. And I can keep up with him walking, but he actually kind of trots, and he's terrific, and I might add that he's kind of thin too, so that probably helps.
I would also add that all 3 of our panelists, in addition to being physically active, you are all connected, and I think that all your interactions with Tufts University contribute to that, but you also continue to contribute to Tufts. Sure. You also have great senses of humor, and I think that that's kind of part of it, right? It's not only having your health, but enjoying what you have. And I think that all of you are just really impressive. So Deb, did you have?
I've got one more that's sort of a 2-pronged question. This might be for you, Sarah. Sorry, we got a lot of nutrition questions here too. Is it possible?
Sign up for the newsletter.
Which I see some people have already.
Oh, good.
Is it possible to get adequate amounts of nutrients through your regular diet, or are supplementations necessary? And also, can you talk just a little bit about the role of nutrition and genetics?
Woo. Okay,
Intensive.
remember, it is a dietary supplement. Think of the definition of a supplement. A supplement is not meant to be a substitute. So if you have a healthy diet, if you follow the dietary guidelines for Americans, by and large, that is sufficient. Now, as we get older, there are certain nutrients that we might need more of that we can't entirely get through our diet because we can't eat as much as the 20-year-olds. And those require supplements. For example, calcium and vitamin D is a very common dietary supplement. I would urge anyone on this call, if you want to take a dietary supplement, consult with your healthcare provider first, because if you don't need it, actually supplementing your nutrition with supplements can actually cause more health problems than create health. Number one, nutrition and genetics is a really important aspect of precision nutrition. What we now know is some of us have variants in our genes that make us more vulnerable to deficiencies in nutrition and the impact on disease. But if you have an adequate diet, it overrides a lot of those genetic variants. However, that is the role of precision nutrition, is what each of us need relative to our genetic composition, our physical activity, and our health. And I see we've got Linda here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Linda Dixon with the Senior Connection. I am so sorry. We have to cut it off, and we have so many questions yet to be answered. But as you know, our panelists have generously offered to answer your questions personally. And they have included their emails in the chat, and you will get a follow-up email with those addresses. So we do encourage you. I am so sorry. What am I going to do? My phone is ringing. We encourage you to take advantage of that. Let me add my thanks to Amy, Karen, and Deb, that will stop ringing, for all the behind the scenes work that made tonight's program possible. Now, for our next program, the Senior Connection would like to continue our winning track record and offer a program that is of real interest to you. Now, how can you give us your ideas and suggestions so that we can put on something that you really want? Easy. You just have to answer the survey that you're going to receive right after this program ends. I promise we read every response, and who knows, our next program may be the result of your recommendation. So thank you to our marvelous panelists and to Sarah, our moderator, for a very special time. This concludes our program. It has been a delight to be together. Good evening and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Can I leave?